You awaken in the dead of night, your breath misting in the cold air, and as you glance out the window, your heart drops. There, etched in the glimmering snow, are the unmistakable hoof-like prints, cloven tracks that stretch endlessly into the darkness, defying all reason. You know they shouldn't exist, but the chilling fear wraps around you like a shroud, whispering that something unholy has passed just beyond your door. Who made those tracks? And are they still lurking out there, waiting for you to step outside? Chapter 1. The Night of the Hoofprints. The winter of 1855 in Devon, England, was particularly harsh. The remote countryside, with its winding roads and small villages, lay silent under a thick blanket of snow. On the night of February 8th, heavy snowfall had descended, leaving the landscape covered in an unbroken sheet of white. By the next morning, the world seemed eerily still, the only sound being the muffled crunch of snow underfoot. But this peace would not last. What the villagers of Devon awoke to on the morning of February 9th was something that defied reason, shaking their very beliefs and plunging them into a state of terror. As dawn broke, a strange discovery was made. Hoof-like footprints, unlike anything the villagers had ever seen, etched across the untouched snow. The prints were bizarre, appearing in a single-file line, as if made by some invisible creature walking with precision through the landscape. At first glance, they resembled the cloven hooves of a goat, but they were far too small, too neat, and too straight. Each print was about 4 inches long, an odd size that didn't quite match any known animal. Stranger still, the tracks were not confined to the ground. They defied all logic, running straight up walls, across rooftops, through enclosed gardens, and even over frozen rivers. It didn't take long for word of the strange tracks to spread. The rural village of Topsham was the first to report the prints, but soon similar reports emerged from other areas, including Limpstone, Exmouth, and beyond. Eyewitnesses were baffled, frightened even, as the prints extended for miles. Some estimates suggest up to 100 miles in total, traversing obstacles that no earthly creature could cross. Stone walls, dense hedges, and even houses posed no hindrance to the prints. It was as if something otherworldly had moved through the landscape without pause. One local farmer, John Chard, awoke early that morning to tend to his animals. As he stepped outside, his eyes were drawn to the snow, where he noticed the strange hoof prints cutting through his yard. Curiosity turned to dread as he followed the trail, realizing that the prints moved straight up the side of his barn. Shaken, Chard followed them further, watching as they crossed over his roof, disappeared into the snow-covered fields, and continued toward the horizon. The unnatural precision and persistence of the tracks chilled him to the bone. It wasn't just the distance or the obstacles they traversed, it was the implication. Whatever had made those tracks wasn't bound by the laws of nature. By mid-morning, panic had set in. Villagers gathered in hushed groups, whispering dark theories about the origins of the footprints. Had some strange animal escaped from a traveling menagerie? Was it a prank, an elaborate joke played on the unsuspecting townsfolk? Or was it something far more sinister? The deeply religious communities of Devon were no strangers to superstition, and whispers of the devil's presence soon began to spread. In a time when the fear of hellfire and damnation was all too real, many came to believe that the hoof prints were not of this world, that the devil himself had walked among them that night. Eyewitness accounts from across Devon describe a palpable sense of fear and confusion. One woman, Elizabeth Greenway of Limpstone, described seeing the prints outside her cottage. They stretched in a perfect line, right up to her front door, as if something had stopped to peer inside before continuing on its way. It was as if the devil had come for me, she later told neighbors, her voice trembling with fear. The fact that these prints appeared everywhere, with no clear starting point or end, only added to the growing hysteria. At St. Thomas, a group of men from the village tried to follow the tracks, hoping to catch the culprit. Armed with lanterns and tools, they set out in the fading light, but the trail led them to nowhere. The prints simply vanished, leaving no trace of where the mysterious creature had gone. Some claimed the hoof prints evaporated into the thin air. Others whispered that whatever had made them had returned to the depths of hell. As the day wore on, the local press got wind of the phenomenon, and soon the newspapers were filled with reports of the devil's footprints. The Exeter and Plymouth Gazette printed a detailed account of the tracks, fueling speculation and fear across the region. For days, the newspapers printed letters from frightened citizens who had witnessed the strange phenomenon firsthand. Some speculated that the prints were left by a wandering badger or an escaped kangaroo, but these theories were quickly dismissed. No known animal could travel in such a straight line over such impossible terrain. The hoof prints were simply too unnatural. The eerie mystery of the hoof prints captivated not only Devon, but the nation as a whole. Clergymen preached about the dangers of falling into sin, suggesting that the strange prints were a sign of divine wrath. The deeply religious saw this as a warning, a message from God that the devil himself had walked among them. For days, churches were filled with terrified villagers seeking solace, praying for protection from whatever evil had passed through their countryside. Though authorities tried to calm the situation, even they were at a loss. No clear explanation could be given. Local magistrates conducted inquiries, but no animal or human culprit was found. The tracks remained an unsolved mystery, leaving Devon to its wild speculations and dark fears. The sight of the hoof prints, leading endlessly into the unknown, was enough to stir primal fears in the hearts of the villagers. In the cold winter air, with the oppressive silence of the snow-clad countryside pressing down upon them, it was hard not to believe that something beyond this world had walked the earth that night. Something that moved without hesitation, without mercy, leaving only its dark, unnatural mark behind. As night fell again over Devon, the villagers locked their doors, shivering not from the cold, but from the bone-deep fear that whatever had left those prints would return. And if it did, who or what would it come for next? Chapter 2. Footprints Across the Snow. The discovery of the mysterious hoof-like prints in Devon sent waves of unease across the countryside. Villagers and farmers, already gripped by fear, began a closer examination of the strange markings. The tracks stretched across the snow, measuring approximately 4 inches long and 3 inches wide, unmistakably resembling the print of a cloven hoof. What perplexed those who studied them was the sheer precision of their formation. Unlike animal tracks that meander, pause, or shift, these prints moved in an almost machine-like fashion, single file, perfectly spaced, and traveling without interruption across vast, varied terrain. In the early light of February 9, 1855, men from nearby villages ventured out to inspect the prints for themselves. Upon closer scrutiny, they noted that the tracks remained consistent in shape and size, despite traversing over a bewildering range of obstacles. Snow-covered roofs, rivers, and even walls, none of these physical barriers broke the trail. Some prints were found leading straight up the sides of houses, over high garden walls, and even across frozen bodies of water, such as the River Yexi. Eyewitnesses marveled at how the prints would appear on one side of a 2-story house, cross its roof, and continue down the other side, as though whatever had made them had not been bound by the laws of gravity. Reports of these footprints came in from over 30 distinct locations in Devon, further deepening the mystery. In Topsham, Reverend Musgrave of St. Mary's Church recounted finding the tracks on the church grounds, running in a straight line across the cemetery and even through closed gates. What was particularly disturbing was the fact that the gate had remained locked overnight, and the snow around it was otherwise undisturbed. This added to the growing sense of dread. Whatever had made these prints had either passed through solid objects or moved in ways that no ordinary creature could. Eyewitness accounts varied only in the personal emotions they conveyed, but the details remained startlingly consistent. Thomas Pock, a local farmer, shared his experience with a reporter from the Exeter and Plymouth Gazette. He had spotted the tracks early in the morning as he tended to his livestock. Intrigued, he decided to follow the trail, hoping to discover its origin. The prints led him across fields, up hills, and through densely wooded areas where no ordinary animal could have trodden so uniformly. But then, as he crossed a small clearing, The tracks simply vanished, cut off as though whatever had made them had disappeared into thin air. It was as though the creature had flown away, Hawk told the journalist, his voice trembling. The abrupt ending of the trail, combined with the unbroken precision of the prints, haunted him for days. This pattern repeated itself across Devon. Numerous attempts were made to track the footprints to their source, but they always led to the same dead ends. Some hunters, armed with rifles, were determined to discover what manner of beast had created such tracks. They set out to follow the prints through forests and across fields, yet each time they found themselves stumped. The tracks would appear to continue toward distant villages, only to vanish without a trace, as though the creature had been swallowed by the earth. The locals, increasingly bewildered, could not comprehend how such distinct tracks could terminate so suddenly with no signs of disturbance. One of the most unsettling aspects of the prints was their interaction with water. Near Dawlish, the hoof-like tracks were found crossing the River Yexi, a feat that would have required the creature to either walk on the surface of the frozen river or, more disturbingly, pass through it without leaving any gaps in the snow on either side. Reports from this area indicated that the prints moved in a perfectly straight line across the river, as though the creature had walked through the air. Locals speculated that no natural explanation could account for this, and the fear that something supernatural had occurred began to take root. Efforts to explain the phenomenon became more frantic as authorities were called to investigate. Local constables, priests, and even scientists examined the footprints, but each came away as confounded as the villagers. Some skeptics proposed that a rogue animal, perhaps a deer or even a large bird, had caused the marks, but this theory was swiftly dismissed. Deer tracks, after all, did not have such regularity, nor did they walk across rooftops or through solid walls. Others suggested that the footprints were the result of a hoax, carried out by pranksters using some unknown contraption to mimic the prints of a hoof creature. But the sheer scale of the tracks, covering miles of land and overcoming impassable obstacles, made this explanation seem equally implausible. As the days passed, the people of Devon became increasingly desperate for answers. A group of men from Exmouth, determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, organized a search party. They followed the prints for miles through woods and fields, but eventually, they too found that the trail ended abruptly. The men, visibly shaken by the experience, returned to their village empty-handed and more terrified than before. What made these attempts at tracking the footprints so unsettling was not just their inexplicable ending, but the eerie silence that accompanied them. The snow-covered countryside was unnervingly quiet, devoid of any sounds of wildlife. It was as if the land itself had been bewitched by whatever had passed through it, leaving nothing but fear and confusion in its wake. As more and more people ventured out to examine the hoof prints, the community became gripped by a growing sense of dread. Families locked their doors at night, afraid of what might be lurking in the shadows. Superstitious whispers spread like wildfire, with many coming to believe that the devil himself had walked among them. The fact that no one could provide a satisfactory explanation only fueled the paranoia. For the villagers of Devon, the footprints across the snow represented something beyond human understanding, a mystery that, even today, remains unsolved. Chapter 3: Theories and Speculation. As the mystery of the devil's footprints unfolded across Devon, a maelstrom of theories and speculation arose to explain the bizarre phenomenon. With every passing day, the hoof prints became a subject of fervent debate, provoking a range of responses from skeptics, the deeply religious, and scientific authorities. Each group attempted to make sense of what had defied logical explanation, but the more they sought answers, the more enigmatic the incident became. Skeptics quickly rallied around a number of natural explanations for the strange tracks. Among the most popular theories was the idea that the prints were made by a variety of escaped animals. Some suggested that the tracks could belong to a badger, while others speculated about the possibility of kangaroos, which had recently gained attention as exotic animals. The argument was bolstered by the fact that a few traveling menageries had passed through Devon in the months leading up to the discovery. However, Those who had studied the tracks closely noted that they bore no resemblance to any known animal, particularly those local to the area. Moreover, critics pointed out that the size and precise nature of the prints could not logically be attributed to any animal. The tracks measured about 4 inches long and 3 inches wide, too small for most hoof creatures found in England. Even more perplexing was the fact that the prints traversed solid structures, leading up walls and across rooftops, actions that no animal could accomplish. Such explanations were further complicated by the sheer distance of the tracks, which spanned over 30 miles in some instances. The thought of a single animal having made such a journey was deemed improbable, and skepticism around the natural explanations began to mount. Others speculated that the phenomenon might have had a meteorological basis. Some proposed that snow drifts or unusual weather patterns could have created the illusion of footprints. Yet, meteorologists who assessed the conditions at the time dismissed this theory. They pointed out that the clarity and consistency of the tracks could not be replicated by natural snowfall patterns. Additionally, the prints were not a mere surface impression. They were deeply imprinted in the snow, which indicated a significant weight. As the theories continued to circulate, none seemed to adequately account for the impossible nature of the tracks. As speculation ran rampant, the deeply religious communities in Devon turned to a far darker interpretation of the hoofprints. Fearful of the supernatural implications, many residents began to believe that the tracks were a clear sign of the devil's presence in their midst. Clergymen seized the opportunity to fan the flames of this fear, suggesting that the prints were a harbinger of divine wrath or demonic influence. Sermons preached across the region warned parishioners of the dangers of sin and the need for repentance, framing the footprints as a direct challenge from the forces of evil. The moniker Devil's Footprints spread quickly among the people, adding an ominous weight to the tracks. Local churches filled with terrified parishioners seeking comfort and guidance from their clergy. Some church leaders encouraged prayers for protection, emphasizing the need for spiritual vigilance in the face of what they described as a grave spiritual threat. As stories circulated about the tracks being a manifestation of the devil's walk on earth, the community became increasingly anxious, convinced that they were under some form of supernatural siege. The growing panic reached a fever pitch when reports began to surface of unusual occurrences coinciding with the appearance of the prints. Some claimed to have experienced strange noises at night, while others reported sightings of shadowy figures flitting through the darkness. Whether true or imagined, these accounts added fuel to the fire, creating an atmosphere of terror that blanketed Devon. Faced with the escalating hysteria, local authorities recognized the need for a rational investigation into the phenomenon. Scientists and naturalists were summoned to analyze the tracks, hoping to dispel the growing panic. Among them was the local naturalist, Mr. William Cross, who meticulously documented the prints in the hopes of finding a logical explanation. He and others undertook extensive examinations, taking measurements and photographing the tracks to provide evidence for future inquiries. Despite their efforts, none of the scientific investigations yielded convincing results. Various experts attempted to connect the tracks to known wildlife, but their findings fell flat when they were unable to match the size and characteristics of the prints to any local species. Theories emerged suggesting that they could be the result of a hoax, but those who had witnessed the prints firsthand dismissed this notion. The meticulous nature of the tracks and their impossible journey over walls and roofs seemed to render the idea of a simple prank untenable. The scientific community's engagement with the prints highlighted the limitations of contemporary knowledge and understanding of such phenomena. Though attempts were made to rationalize the tracks, none of the explanations resonated with the locals. Instead, the community found itself caught in a growing web of fear and confusion, where rational explanations only seemed to deepen their unease. As theories collided, the air in Devon grew thick with tension. The scientific community was unable to quell the rising tide of panic fueled by superstition and fear. The more the villagers sought answers, the more elusive the truth became. In the heart of a winter shrouded in mystery, the devil's footprints remained an unsolved enigma, an ominous reminder of the boundaries between the known and the unknown. With the cloven tracks stretching across their countryside, the people of Devon were left to ponder not just the origin of the prints, but what darker forces might be at play in their once peaceful lives. Chapter 4: A Widespread Panic. As the chilling reality of the devil's footprints settled over Devon, a palpable fear gripped the community. What began as a curious spectacle soon morphed into a state of widespread panic, infecting every corner of rural life. The footprints, once mere curiosities in the snow, had transformed into harbingers of dread, disrupting the serene existence of a community that had known little beyond the rhythms of nature and agricultural life. In the wake of the mysterious hoof prints, families grew hesitant to leave their homes. The once bustling streets of Devon became eerily quiet as fear took hold. Villagers bolted their doors and shuttered their windows, convinced that the creature responsible for the tracks roamed just beyond their threshold. The familiar sounds of daily life, children playing, farmers tending to their livestock, were replaced by an unsettling silence, punctuated only by hushed whispers and the soft crunch of snow underfoot. The local churches became sanctuaries, overflowing with parishioners seeking solace from the mounting terror. Sermons filled with warnings of divine retribution and the lurking presence of evil echoed through the stone walls. The faithful, clutching rosaries and praying fervently for protection, hoped to shield themselves from the specter of the unknown. Superstition ran rampant, with many turning to charms and rituals in desperate attempts to ward off what they believed to be a demonic force. Villagers began to whisper of signs and omens, interpreting everyday occurrences as messages from beyond. The atmosphere in Devon had shifted from one of tranquil rural life to a landscape steeped in paranoia and uncertainty. Neighbors eyed each other with suspicion, fearful that any among them might have summoned the dark forces that had unleashed the footprints. The grip of fear not only tore at the fabric of community trust, but also suffocated the vibrancy of life in the village. As the panic spread, reports of similar tracks began to emerge from neighboring villages, further stoking the flames of dread. Residents of nearby towns claimed to have discovered identical cloven prints trailing through their fields, deep into their woods, and even along the banks of small rivers. Each new sighting fueled speculation that something far more sinister was afoot, lending credence to the belief that a supernatural force was indeed at play. Letters and diary entries from the time reveal a community grappling with confusion and despair. One diary entry from a young woman in a neighboring village recounted how she had discovered tracks leading to her garden. "I saw them just beyond the hedgerow, footprints like those spoken of in whispers. My heart raced, and fear gripped me like an icy hand," she wrote. Her account mirrored the sentiments of many who documented their own harrowing encounters. The mention of icy hands and racing hearts painted a vivid picture of a community beset by an overwhelming, almost palpable terror. Another letter, penned by a local farmer, described the surreal experience of discovering the prints outside his barn. "I thought my eyes were deceiving me. No creature could make these tracks. They lead up to the door, but I dared not follow them," he wrote. Such accounts spread like wildfire, confirming to the villagers that the devil's footprints were no mere anomaly, but a manifestation of a deeper evil creeping into their lives. The collective fear escalated to a frenzy, each report fanning the flames of hysteria. Children were kept indoors, and farmers refused to venture out at dusk. The very essence of rural life, of hard work, community gatherings, and shared meals, was eroded by the lurking shadows of fear that had descended upon Devon. As panic escalated, local authorities scrambled to contain the unrest. Policemen were dispatched to investigate the tracks and quell the rising tide of anxiety. With badges pinned to their chests and lanterns in hand, they set out across the snow-laden fields, determined to uncover the truth behind the frightening prints. However, as they trudged through the deep snow, their efforts yielded little in the way of answers. The officers followed the paths, noting the unmistakable cloven shapes embedded in the snow, but they too were perplexed. After long days spent scrutinizing the prints and interviewing villagers, they returned with no plausible explanation. Their reports, filled with uncertainty, failed to reassure the populace. Instead, the presence of law enforcement only seemed to heighten fears. If even the authorities could not explain the phenomenon, what hope did the average villager have? In an effort to restore calm, the government called upon scientists and experts to provide clarity. Investigators traveled from distant towns, scrutinizing the prints under the scrutiny of the public eye. Yet, despite their qualifications and expertise, their findings were inconclusive. Some proposed that the prints could have originated from a large bird, but locals vehemently rejected this notion, adamant that no bird could create tracks that traversed fences and walls. With each failed attempt to provide rational explanations, the authorities found themselves trapped in a web of fear. Residents who had once placed their trust in the local constabulary now questioned their ability to protect them from unseen evils. The fabric of society unraveled as neighbors turned against one another, fueled by suspicion and fear. The growing hysteria took on a life of its own, and soon rumors began to circulate that the footprints were a precursor to more malevolent events. Some claimed to have seen shadowy figures lurking at the edges of the woods, while others spoke of strange noises in the night, screams or whispers that sent shivers down their spines. The lines between reality and imagination blurred, and the townspeople became caught in a cycle of dread, each new rumor feeding their fears. In the wake of the devil's footprints, Devon had become a community gripped by paranoia, where whispers of the supernatural intertwined with the fabric of daily life. The prince had stripped away the certainty of the known, replacing it with an unshakable fear of the unknown. As families huddled in their homes, unsure of what dangers lay just beyond their doors, it became evident that the true horror of the devil's footprints lay not only in the tracks themselves, but in the psychological hold they had taken over a once peaceful rural life. The shadows deepened, and the reality of a community torn apart by fear hung heavy in the air, leaving them to wonder if they would ever feel safe again. Chapter 5: The Footprints and the Media. As the chilling tale of the devil's footprints continued to unfold across Devon, it became clear that the phenomenon was no longer confined to the rural landscape. The whispers of panic and fear soon spilled beyond the small village, as local newspapers began to take notice of the bizarre incident. With each report, the mystery that gripped the community expanded into a national sensation, captivating the attention of the press and the public alike. Local papers were among the first to report on the eerie hoof-like tracks, describing the spectacle with a mix of fascination and dread. The devil's footprints quickly became a favorite topic for journalists, who penned stories filled with vivid descriptions of the tracks winding through the snow, often accompanied by dramatic illustrations that brought the mystery to life. These illustrations showcased the prints leading across rooftops and walls, sparking public imagination and fear as they depicted the impossible journey of the strange visitor. As the reports gained traction, the phenomenon captured the attention of major national newspapers. Front-page stories highlighted eyewitness accounts, stirring a national conversation about the unexplained. Each new edition brought fresh speculation, with columnists and correspondents weighing in on the mysterious visitor and the potential implications of such an event. The combination of illustrations and eyewitness testimonies fueled public interest, leading to heightened fears and a growing fascination with the supernatural. One particularly sensational article claimed that the footprints were a sign of impending doom, linking them to recent hardships and urging the public to prepare for calamity. The reporting blurred the lines between fact and sensationalism, leaving readers grappling with an overwhelming sense of dread. As the media continued to cover the story, the initial curiosity morphed into a nationwide panic, with many fearing that the devil himself had left his mark on England. The allure of the devil's footprints extended far beyond the shores of England. International newspapers quickly picked up the story, adding their voices to the chorus of speculation. Reports from as far away as France, Germany, and the United States began to emerge, each presenting their interpretation of the mysterious phenomenon. These articles often leaned into the supernatural explanations that captivated the public's imagination, painting vivid pictures of dark forces at work. Writers from various backgrounds, both professional journalists and amateur enthusiasts, published articles examining the strange footprints. Some posited that the tracks were the work of a devilish entity, while others suggested they were a manifestation of mass hysteria. The attention transformed the event into a global spectacle, with people across Europe and America eager to learn more about the peculiar incident in Devon. This international spotlight brought with it a deluge of theories, ranging from the plausible to the ludicrous. Some claimed the tracks were an elaborate hoax, while others connected them to local folklore and demonic legends. The mystery morphed into a living entity, capturing the minds of those who sought to make sense of what was, by all accounts, inexplicable. The phenomenon had transcended its origins, evolving into a symbol of fear and uncertainty that reverberated far beyond the English countryside. The extensive media coverage ignited heated debates among scientists, religious leaders, and the general public. With no definitive explanation, the Devil's Footprints became a battleground for competing ideologies, each attempting to assert their understanding of the phenomenon. Skeptics rallied behind scientific reasoning, arguing that the tracks were a result of natural phenomena, such as the actions of an escaped animal or an elaborate prank. Prominent scientists from various disciplines weighed in, attempting to debunk the supernatural theories that had taken root in the minds of the public. They proposed logical explanations, highlighting the inconsistencies in the footprints and stressing the need for rational thought. However, their attempts to ground the debate in scientific reasoning often fell flat amid the backdrop of mass hysteria. On the other side of the debate, religious leaders seized the opportunity to reinforce their beliefs. They viewed the tracks as a sign of divine intervention, urging parishioners to repent for their sins and seek forgiveness. Sermons echoed the sentiment that the footprints were a harbinger of doom, calling upon the faithful to pray for protection against the encroaching darkness. In a society where religion was deeply woven into the fabric of daily life, these voices resonated powerfully, further polarizing the public discourse. The media, sensing the electric atmosphere, amplified these debates, providing a platform for passionate arguments on both sides. Every newspaper and pamphlet became a stage for public discourse, with readers captivated by the unfolding drama. The lack of a definitive explanation left ample room for sensationalism and wild conjecture, transforming the Devil's Footprints from a simple mystery into a broader commentary on fear, faith, and the human need for understanding. As opinions clashed and tensions rose, the once peaceful rural community of Devon found itself at the center of a chaotic storm of emotion. The Devil's Footprints had become a symbol of fear that transcended their origin, provoking discussions that dug deep into the human psyche. People were drawn into the narrative, eager to assert their beliefs in a world that had suddenly become unpredictable and terrifying. In the end, the media coverage of the Devil's Footprints served as a catalyst, transforming a local mystery into a national obsession. What began as a series of hoof-like prints in the snow grew into a symbol of broader societal fears, reflecting the struggles between reason and superstition, between skepticism and faith. The footprints, it seemed, had become more than mere tracks. They were now a representation of the uncertainties that haunted not just a village, but an entire nation on the brink of facing its own fears and demons. As the shadows of the past loomed larger, the question lingered: would the truth ever emerge from the darkness? Chapter 6: Similar Phenomena Across the World. The whispers of the Devil's Footprints resonated far beyond the boundaries of Devon, capturing the imaginations of those who sought to understand the unexplainable. As researchers dug deeper into the historical archives, they unearthed a chilling truth. The footprints were not an isolated incident, but rather part of a disturbing pattern of mysterious tracks reported across the globe. The inquiry into the Devil's Footprints revealed an unsettling lineage of similar occurrences, dating back centuries. From ancient folklore to modern sightings, stories emerged of inexplicable prints that bore an uncanny resemblance to those found in Devon. In regions ranging from rural England to remote villages in the Americas, people recounted tales of strange tracks that appeared overnight, leaving observers in a state of fear and confusion. One such account surfaced in the late 19th century in New England, where residents reported discovering a series of mysterious tracks leading through the snow. These prints, resembling those of a large animal with cloven hooves, appeared seemingly out of nowhere, causing panic and bewilderment. Eyewitnesses claimed the tracks moved through the woods, crossed frozen rivers, and even meandered into towns, only to vanish without a trace. Similar reports circulated in the early 20th century in the Appalachian Mountains, where locals stumbled upon tracks that defied explanation, fueling rumors of malevolent spirits lurking in the shadows. Such stories were not limited to Western folklore. In cultures around the world, people recounted encounters with unexplainable prints that spoke of supernatural forces at play. In Japan, legends of the Kappa emerged, mischievous water spirits that left tracks along riverbanks, leading to fears of their malevolence. In Africa, tribes spoke of strange footprints believed to belong to ancestral spirits or creatures that roamed the earth at night, invoking both reverence and fear. As researchers compiled these accounts, a chilling realization settled over them. The devil's footprints were a mere echo of a broader narrative that spanned across cultures and centuries. The revelation of these historical parallels fueled new inquiries into the nature of the devil's footprints. Scientists, intrigued by the connection, revisited their earlier theories in light of the global context. With growing interest, discussions shifted toward the possibility of unusual animals or atmospheric phenomena being responsible for such inexplicable occurrences. Some scientists speculated that a large, unknown species of animal might have wandered through the area, leaving its distinctive tracks behind. Could the prints belong to an elusive creature long thought extinct? Others proposed that the unusual conditions of that fateful winter might have played a role, suggesting atmospheric phenomena could have caused the snow to take on strange shapes, mimicking hoof prints. However, as each theory was proposed, the same questions loomed large. How could such a creature leave perfectly aligned tracks that traversed walls, rooftops, and rivers without any sign of deviation? Despite the various hypotheses, none could account for the precision and continuity of the footprints. Each attempt at rationalizing the phenomenon only deepened the sense of mystery surrounding the devil's footprints. While science sought to offer explanations rooted in the physical world, the chilling reality remained. The tracks defied the laws of nature, evoking a sense of unease that could not be dismissed. The legacy of the devil's footprints evolved beyond mere footprints in the snow. They became interwoven into the larger tapestry of mysterious occurrences that have captivated people throughout history. This phenomenon, along with similar events, fed into England's rich tradition of supernatural lore, where tales of ghosts, monsters, and unexplained phenomena had long stirred the imagination. The devil's footprints became emblematic of a culture deeply steeped in folklore, where every shadow could conceal a lurking horror and every unexplained noise could signal a supernatural presence. The incident added another layer to the ongoing narrative of the strange and uncanny in the English countryside, where ghost stories and legends flourished. It echoed the same sense of unease that surrounded other famous enigmas, such as the Loch Ness Monster or UFO sightings, which have long haunted the imaginations of those who sought to uncover the unknown. The incident captured public interest, sparking debates and discussions about the nature of the unexplained. Newspapers and pamphlets published alongside the footprints' original discovery began to include stories of other supernatural occurrences from around the world, creating a narrative that blurred the lines between reality and folklore. The idea of something sinister lurking just beyond the veil of the mundane became increasingly prevalent, with the footprints serving as a chilling reminder that the world holds secrets beyond human comprehension. As time passed, the devil's footprints morphed from a local mystery into a cultural phenomenon, transcending their origins. The fear and fascination they instilled resonated with a universal truth. The human psyche is drawn to the unknown, compelled to explore the darkness that lies just beyond the light. The prints became a symbol of humanity's enduring struggle to confront the mysteries of existence, a reflection of the primal fear that something malevolent might be watching from the shadows. The phenomenon reminded us of the fragility of our understanding and the ever-present possibility that we are not alone in this world. As researchers continued to explore the devil's footprints and their historical parallels, they confronted the unsettling truth. In a world where shadows linger and whispers echo, the line between reality and myth remains tantalizingly blurred. The footprints served as a haunting reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond comprehension, forever enticing those brave enough to venture into the unknown. As the years rolled on and the echoes of the past faded, one thing remained clear. The devil's footprints had left an indelible mark on the landscape of human fear, a testament to our collective fascination with the dark corners of existence that we strive to understand but can never fully grasp. Chapter 7. The Mystery Endures. The haunting mystery of the devil's footprints has cast a long shadow over the collective consciousness of those intrigued by the unknown. Since that chilling February night in 1855, countless individuals, both amateur enthusiasts and seasoned professionals, have dedicated themselves to unraveling the enigma that befell Devon's snow-covered landscape. Modern investigations have sought to delve into the depths of historical data and physical evidence, yet the ghostly tracks remain a puzzle that refuses to be solved. In the decades following the incident, a wave of curiosity surged, prompting investigators to return to the scene of the mystery. Armed with advanced tools and technologies, they sought to recreate the conditions that birthed the chilling footprints. Using satellite imagery and computer simulations, some researchers attempted to model the weather patterns of that fateful night, while others sought to analyze the soil and snow samples from the region. Despite the modern advancements in forensic science, no conclusive evidence has emerged to definitively explain the tracks. The allure of the devil's footprints has lured countless investigators to scour the countryside for any remnants of the past. Yet, time has obscured the evidence, leaving behind only fragmented memories and speculation. Amateur enthusiasts have flocked to the sites where the footprints once instilled fear, sharing their findings on social media and in local folklore circles. Some have even claimed to have spotted similar tracks in more recent winters, further reigniting the flames of curiosity. However, each modern attempt to clarify the mystery has only deepened the intrigue, leaving behind more questions than answers. As the footprints fade into legend, the fear they inspired continues to breathe life into the tale, inviting further exploration into the unknown. Even in contemporary discourse, the lack of a definitive explanation persists. Theories regarding the origin of the devil's footprints range from the mundane to the supernatural, illustrating humanity's deep-rooted need to explain the inexplicable. Some skeptics propose that the tracks were created by a series of pranks, arguing that local residents, eager for excitement, might have concocted a story to capture the imaginations of others. However, this theory fails to account for the sheer scope of the footprints, which traversed extensive distances and impossible terrains without deviation. Others suggest that the prints were made by an escaped exotic animal, possibly a kangaroo or a deer, roaming the English countryside. Yet such theories fall short under scrutiny, as no evidence exists to support sightings of such animals in the area during that time. Still, they persist, as the human mind seeks to find solace in tangible explanations. The religious community, meanwhile, has not forgotten the implications of the footprints. Many fervently believe they are evidence of a malevolent force at work, a sign of the devil's presence in a world yearning for faith. Some clergymen maintain that the tracks symbolize divine retribution, a reminder of humanity's moral failings. This notion continues to feed the fire of superstition, adding an air of dread that cloaks the incident in spiritual significance. Amidst these theories lies a vast chasm of uncertainty. The enduring debate surrounding the devil's footprints reflects a broader struggle to comprehend the unknown. Each theory serves as a reflection of humanity's innate desire to impose order on chaos, to grasp what lies just beyond the reach of understanding. Yet, as investigations delve into the heart of the mystery, the abyss remains, taunting those who seek clarity. More than 150 years have passed since the devil's footprints graced the winter landscape of Devon. Yet the enigma remains one of the most compelling unsolved mysteries of the 19th century. The tracks continue to inspire fascination, captivating paranormal enthusiasts historians, and the general public alike. This enduring allure is a testament to the track's power to evoke fear and wonder. As the footprints solidified their place in folklore, they began to merge with other tales of the supernatural, each story weaving a complex tapestry of the unexplained. The Devil's Footprints stand alongside the legends of the Loch Ness Monster and the spectral apparitions that haunt ancient castles. Their inclusion in the broader narrative of strange occurrences speaks to the human condition, where the search for understanding meets the boundaries of the unknown. Even today, discussions about the Devil's Footprints elicit shivers down spines, stirring imaginations and inciting speculation. Ghost tours in Devon now feature the story of the footprints as part of their repertoire, guiding curious souls through the snow-covered landscape as they recount the chilling events of that winter night. Locals and tourists alike ponder the legacy left behind, examining the tracks as symbols of humanity's struggle against the mysteries that envelop them. Despite decades of investigation, speculation, and debate, the Devil's Footprints remain an enigma, a haunting reminder that some mysteries will elude understanding. Whether the tracks were the result of a natural phenomenon, an elaborate hoax, or something more otherworldly, the story resonates through time, forever etched in the annals of history. The footprints have left an indelible mark on the psyche of those who seek to understand their origin, serving as a chilling testament to the human experience. The mystery continues to evoke a sense of dread, enticing those brave enough to explore its depths. As long as there are curious minds willing to investigate, the Devil's Footprints will remain, lurking in the shadows, a spectral echo of a night when fear and intrigue intertwined, forever haunting the imagination and the historical record. In the end, perhaps the true terror lies not in the footprints themselves, but in the very nature of mystery, a reminder that in a world governed by reason and logic, there are still forces at play that defy explanation, inviting us to confront the darkness that whispers just beyond our grasp.